This conference will now be recorded.
So in last session, guys, we discussed about creating a storage account, right? So there might be the scenarios where we are trying to, for example, you started a business and you have multiple stores and you want to move all of your data to the cloud, guys. Okay, so you move to blob storage initially, all of your data, and you want to move it to you want to do some sort of analytics on top of the data to add a value to the business. Okay, so for you to move data from blob to data lake and for blob to data lake, you have to be how you need to move the data. We discussed already using Azure Data Factory service. We can move the data from blob to data lake, right? So let's yesterday we tried creating a blob storage, right? So in today's session, I'm going to create a data lake storage gen 2, and then we start moving the data from blob to data lake, and so how exactly we need to move data, and so there are different kinds of approaches. So initially we'll move the file, only one file, and later we'll go for a metadata driven approach. Okay, so when we have a multiple files in a blob and how exactly we need to move data, so metadata driven ingestion framework, how we need to implement using Azure Data Factory service also we can discuss. So in today's session, I'm going to create a data lake storage gen 2 account, and we already create a blob yesterday. Let's discuss about the data lake gen 2. So try to create this storage account, and you can see here Azure storage is Microsoft Manager service providing cloud storage that is highly available. So it's saying that it's fully managed by Microsoft. The storage account, whatever we are talking about, blob or data lake, it is fully managed by Microsoft. You no need to worry about. You just load the data. There is no limitation with respect to volume of data. So you can load a huge volume of data in storage accounts, and they are highly available, guys. Okay, so they are secure and they are durable and scalable and redundant. So even sometimes when we are trying to, I mean, forget about the cloud, guys. When we start working on on-premises systems, there might be some server down issues. You also experience that when you are maybe if you start working in if you already worked in a real time, and maybe in the future if you start working, and you can see there are a lot of server downs, and so there might be an issue with the security, there might be issue with the scalable, how it will automatically scalable if number of users are increased trying to access the website, right? So how the data would be replicated across different regions if your data is very secure. So all these options we have with respect to the storage accounts. Okay, so you can load any kind of data, guys. You can load JSON files, CSV files, Parquet files, XML files, Excel files. You can load your source. It would be anything. Okay, it would be also binary log files, audio data, audio files, in the sense your MP3 files, MP4 video files, streaming data. So live streaming is not supporting currently in Azure Data Factory, but normal streaming data we can do that with the idea. Okay, so I'll also give the differences between what exactly the difference between Azure Data Factory and Databricks later point of time. There are many things. Okay, so once you have the complete idea on Azure Data Factory, if I can start explaining about all these things at this point of time, you cannot understand this. If you have complete understanding on Azure Data Factory, then I'll give an differences between Azure Data Factory and Databricks. This is also an interview point of view. They will definitely ask. Okay, so so with respect to storage accounts, right? So we have different storage accounts. We have blob, we have data lake, we have table, queues, files. There are different kinds of storage accounts, and depends on the usage. Microsoft can charge from you. Depends on the options you have selected while creating the storage accounts. They will charge from you, guys. Okay. So you can create that blob storage. You can create a data lake gen 2 using this storage accounts option. Okay. So create a storage account and you can select here how exactly you need to create a data lake. Yesterday I tried creating a blob storage, and here I need to pass the subscription details. So this is my subscription and resource group. So you can use this resource group. So we created this resource group already, and come down. I need to pass this ADF here. ADLH Gen 2. Okay, so this is you should pass that in a small case, guys, not in a capital letters. So this is my storage account name and the region where we need to keep all our metadata information. So region is we have to be specific the region and wherever you resides and wherever you're trying to access, and performance will use a standard. So we already discussed all these options, the same options, guys. Okay, so I'm not going to change anything. Only with respect to redundancy I'll use a local redundant storage because this is for less demanding workload. This is not for real time. So since we are using for the storage account for practice purpose, right? So you can use the local redundant storage, saving some cost. Okay, since Microsoft is offering initially 13,300 credits, 13,300 rupees, Indian rupees, $200, right? So you can try to save some cost, and we can create those. You can use these options to reduce some cost from that. Okay, so click on next advanced. So we already discussed all these things. So what I need to change here with respect to data lake, you should enable this hierarchical namespace. Okay, remember this point, guide, enable hierarchical namespace. You need to click on this in the sense you are trying to create a data lake gen 2 account. Okay, only change between blob and data lake, this is the change. Under data lake storage gen 2 option, you have to be enable this checkbox. Okay, so the data lake storage gen 2 hierarchical namespace, what is this hierarchical namespace we can discuss. Okay, so we can see practically how exactly we need to load the data in a hierarchical folder structure, like year, under the year, month, under the month we have day, under the day we'll upload the files. So how this should work and we can discuss, guys, no worries. So the data lake storage gen 2 hierarchical namespace is enabled, and it will accelerate big data analytic workloads. If you're trying to perform any analytics on top of the data, you should load the data into data lake storage gen 2. The main difference between blob and data lake storage gen 2, you should load the data in a data lake in a hierarchical folder structure. So what is this hierarchical folder structure? We have subfolders, guys. Okay, we have year, month. Under the month folder we have day folder. Under the day folder we'll upload the files. Like this we have hierarchical folder structure. So I'll show you practically how we need to load the data in hierarchical folder structure for you to do analytics on top of the data very efficiently. And one more difference between blob and data lake, when we are trying to perform an analytics, right? So you should load the data into data lake, guys. Okay, remember this point, you should load the data into data lake, not in blob storage. Blob storage is not meant for doing big data analytics. ADLH Gen 2 is meant for doing big data analytics. Okay, and you can also do ACL, access control list, on file level in a data lake gen 2. It's not possible in a blob storage. Okay, so these are all main key differences, but blob it supports only object based storage, whereas data lake gen 2 it supports both file and object based storage. Okay, so when it comes to performance, when it comes to security, so when compared to blob and we have a data lake gen 1 also, they are going to be deprecate that. Data lake gen 2 will plays a key role here. Okay, so with respect to performance, security and all, so many people currently using this service. Okay, one second guys. So this is what the data lake is. Okay, data lake gen 2. This is what the differences between blob and data lake. Let me practically show you what exactly the differences between blob and data lake. The main difference, guys, hierarchical namespace is enabled with respect to data lake gen 2. With respect to blob storage, hierarchical namespace is disabled. Okay, this checkbox earlier while trying to create a blob storage, it was disabled, right? So now it is enabled, right? So apart from that, all these options are default options only. We don't need to change anything. Okay, so I'll try to create the storage account. So whatever we discussed in the blob storage, the same options. Okay, so only thing you need to change there, Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 checkbox. Okay, so it's going to be create now. So we'll go to the resource, click on the resource. And here you can see the ADLH Gen 2 storage account. Okay, so you can see guys, hierarchical namespace is enabled with respect to data lake Gen 2, right? When it goes to Azure blob storage, see here blob storage. So I don't see hierarchical namespace is enabled, it's a disabled here, right? So the main difference is this, guys. Okay, so with respect to data lake Gen 2, its hierarchical namespace is enabled. With respect to blob storage, hierarchical namespace is disabled. Okay, and so we have whatever the options we have in a blob, and the same options also we have in a data lake gen 2. And so activity log and tags, so access control, so containers, So we have not created any container. Let me try to create one container. So this is my refined container. Just click create it. So click on container, and you can create, you can pass some name here. And all these options are common default options. Let's try to create the container. This is how we need to create a containers in the real time as well. But they do not provide any access to you to create a container. So maybe it's restricted for you to create this containers. Okay, remember this point, please. So now I have created both the blob and data lake storage template. Right? So let's try to create. Okay. Now let's go to home page. Open Azure Data Factory. And this is our Azure Data Factory service. This is an ETL service where we are trying to extract the data from blob and trying to load data into data lake, right? As we discussed in yesterday's session. So we have now we are ready with the blob, right? So this is a blob and this is a data lake. And now we are trying to move all the data from blob to data lake, right? So we are ready with Azure Data Factory service. Okay, and we have file one here. So we already uploaded the file one, and I want to move this file one to ADLH Gen2. This is blob storage. This is ADLS, Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2. Okay, so this is one storage account. This is another storage account I've created. So we also created Azure Data Factory service. I just want to move this file one to this target ADLS Gen2. That's it. Okay, so you already knows that sequence of steps we already discussed that. Let's try to move this file one to target Gen2 using Azure Data Factory service. So that's the reason I just open Azure Data Factory service here. So go inside Azure Data Factory. So for you to open, let me show you again. You need to click on this Open Azure Data Factory Studio. Okay, getting started. So here, okay, so getting started, Open Azure Data Factory Studio. So you can start creating or authoring and monitoring your data pipelines and data flows. Okay, so you can open here. And it is going to be open this page, guys. Okay, and we are into home page right now, and I can see here a lot of templates. And this is how exactly you need to integrate your code to the higher environments that we can discuss. We can have a separate session for that. Now I just want to just give the
Sorry,
glimpse.
Suresh. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, can you just like restart this one? I couldn't see. Where did you come? How did you come to this page?
This page. Okay, so I can see you can see here home page, right?
Yeah.
this is a home page, and here you can see open Azure Data Factory Studio, right?
Okay, okay.
Getting started, under getting started, you can see open Azure Data Factory Studio, right? So you can
Sure,
see my
sure.
cursor, right?
Yeah, yeah. I can see it now.
Okay. Yeah, so here we have an option open, or else you can click on this link, and the one is fine. Just click on open. It will automatically open Azure Data Factory. So we have different tabs, guys. Okay, so we have home page, we have author, we have monitor tab, we have manage. If you want to learn anything, you can also click on learn. Okay, so some tutorials related to Azure Data Factory, they were recently added this tab. Okay, if you want to know more about the Azure Data Factory and what are all different tutorials we have, view all tutorials related to Azure Data Factory and Azure Data Factory community. Okay, so all these things we have with respect to Azure Data Factory. And this is the home page. We already have some templates, predefined templates. Okay, so when you want to copy some data from blob to data lake, you have some predefined templates you also can use. So I can see here, let me show you again. So I can see here the predefined templates. So in a home page, we are into home page right now. And under this, I can have here ingest. Okay, so copy data at scale once or on a schedule. So you can schedule your pipeline, you can copy at once, so you can use this option. Okay, so this is an ingest option. When you try to copy something from a source and you want to load into target, you can use this ingest option. Okay, so just click on this ingest option, guys. I just clicked on this ingest option. See here in just right, just click on this. I can see some data, copy data tool, some predefined template. Use this copy data tool to perform a one time or scheduled data load from 90 plus data sources. So 90 plus data sources, in the sense, maybe your requirement is different. You want to connect to the SQL server, or you want to connect to the SFTP server, or you want to connect to the Oracle server. Okay, so your source data is there, not in blob storage. So your source data is, your customer requirement is to move data maybe from Azure SQL database or Oracle database, right? You want to move data to the cloud, data lake storage gen 2, right? So this is your requirement. So you should connect to your respective connector, and you can move the data from whatever the data you want to move from the source, right? So here there is some templates. You can also use these templates to move data for schedule base, for you want to run instantly, you want to check the data. You can just built-in copy task you can use, and you can connect whatever the source you want to connect. You can load the data accordingly. Okay, so just click on this built-in copy task, and so just you can be able to click on next. Okay, so you can be able to specify here source, your what is your source. Your source is blob storage, right? You can create a connection. Okay, so first, you already aware, right? We discussed about how you need to authenticate. So we discussed about a courier service, right? And how exactly you want to courier from India to US. First, you need to authenticate, right? So first, you need to create a linked service to establish a connection to blob storage, right? So you need to create this connection and blob storage, and then you can be able to move it here. And I can see here subscription I need to pass. So these are all the things we can come, I mean, I'll come to this, guys. These are all default options. You don't need to change anything, but the authentication type, I'll come to this section, because we have different authentications we have with respect to blob storage. We have account key, we have service principal, we have system managed identity, we have user assigned managed identity, we have SaaS URI, shared access signature. So different authentication mechanisms, I'll come to this. Okay, so as of now, I'll use the default options. I'll come to this different kinds of authentications and how exactly you need to use in a real time. Okay, what exactly you need to use in real time, that we can discuss. So this is an integration run. Guys, can you go on mute, please? So this is an integration runtime. So since you are trying to move data from cloud to cloud, right? So I can use the default integration runtime. Okay. So there might be scenarios where you can connect to the on-prem Oracle, your client-specific servers, right? Oracle or SQL Server or any SharePoint location or any Teradata or any SAP want to connect or mainframes. So like this, we have many connectors are available. When you connect to that their network, right? So it's their network, right? You have to be install the self-hosted integration runtime. You can install this self-hosted integration runtime in their machine where the source system are resides, or else you can install this in Azure VM and you can connect securely to their systems. So that how you need to connect, how we need to install, that we can discuss later point of time. Now what I'm trying to say here, I'm trying to connect to the both blob and data lake are available in a cloud. I'm using this auto resolve integration runtime. What exactly auto resolve integration runtime will provide? Auto resolve integration runtime will provide a compute infrastructure which is used by Azure Data Factory. What is the compute infrastructure here? So when you try to move data from blob to data lake, there should be some network bandwidth, storage, memory, and everything we need, right? All this compute infrastructure would be able to taken care by auto resolve integration runtime. So by default, whenever you tried creating Azure Data Factory service, you can have this auto resolve integration runtime. You no need to create a separately. It will automatically populate while creating a link service to any cloud service in Azure. Okay. You can see here it will automatically populated. I no need to change, and this is an account key authentication. So while creating the service blob, for example blob storage, right? So we also pass that through account key I want to authenticate this blob storage. Okay, so this is my blob storage, Azure blob storage. If you want to change the name of this blob storage, you can change it in a real time. We need to pass ls underscore. We need to follow some naming standards as well, guys. Okay, while creating this link service, you have to be follow some naming standards. ls in the sense link service underscore. I'll just want to connect, create here blob test connection. Okay, so this is my link service name, guys. Okay, this is my link. If you want, you can keep this name, different naming conventions based on your requirement, but you should add that ls underscore so that everyone should understand this is a link service, guys. Okay, so I'll come here. So here we have a connection string and Azure Key Vault. I'll come to this section, Azure Key Vault. It's a centralized place where we need to keep all our account keys. We will access this account key from the Azure Key Vault service. Now I'm trying to use a connection string because I have not created any service related to this Azure Key Vault service yet. You are not aware anything about Azure Key Vault. I'll come to this section later point of time. Now you can try to understand the connection string. So it is asking me passing the Azure subscription and enter manually. If you know all the details, you can also enter manually. Now I want to add from subscription. Okay, so subscription. So this is my subscription. And the storage account you already created, right? Blob storage. So this is your storage account. Okay, so you already created earlier. Now I can see here some additional connection properties. I don't have any additional test connection. I'll test anyhow. So test the connection. So connection is successful, right? Now let's try to create. I'm trying to authenticate with the blob storage. I've created the connection, test connection. Now you have to be select. Connection is fine, right? So you have to be select the file, right? Your first step would be create link service, right? And your second step would be create a data set. Why you need to create a data set? To read this file one, right? To read this file one, I need to create a data set. Okay. So here you need to browse that. You need to browse the data set. I can see here in the identity you use to access the data store only as a permissions to the subdirectory instead of the entire account. Specify the path to the browse. So you can see here you use to access the data store only as a permission to subdirectory. I can browse this. I can see here raw container. I can see here only one file. Okay, so only one file. I want to read this particular file. Okay, so here we have different options: binary copy, and we have an option here recursively, and we have an option here enable partition discovery. So remember guys, one point, if I want to select this binary copy, files will be treated as a binaries. Okay, so if you want to treat all your files as a binaries, and schema definitions will not be enforced. Okay, schema definitions will not be enforced, and destination cannot be relational database. When you tried using this binary copy, destination cannot be SQL database. Okay, and when you use only binaries, then you cannot choose a target should be Azure SQL database. Okay, so recursively option guys, it's very useful when you have a multiple subfolders, right? So for example, so I'll go to my C drive guys. Okay, so I'll go to my C drive. I have here multiple folders, right? I'll go to program files, and I can see here multiple folders, right? So I have 7-zip. Under the 7-zip I have another folder, right? So in real time it might be dynamically the multiple folders are generating from source, and you want to read all the file from the subfolders as well. Okay, what if enable a recursively option? You do not select until this file guys. You can select until the main folder, main container. Okay, so subfolders, even it will keep on changing, it will still read all the file from the respective folders, subfolders as well. It will automatically go into the subfolders. You don't need to specify till the subfolder. Okay, so you can just specify that till a raw container. If you are selecting the file, now I have selected the file, right? Now I have selected my source file. uh, this recursively option is disabled. When you check here, process all the files in the input folder, and its subfolders recursively, its subfolders also, it will automatically go and it will read the file, are just the ones in the selected folder. This setting is disabled. Okay, so already selected the one file, and this setting is disabled. And we have another option is enable partition discovery. So specify whether to parse the partitions. Okay, whether you to parse the partitions from the file path and add them as additional source columns. Okay, so you have to be specify whether to parse the partitions from the file path and add them as additional source columns. If you want to do that, you can enable this partition discovery. So we will see how we need to add that extra columns, and how we need to parse those partitions. So these are all default. I don't need to change anything. Max concurrent connections. Number of threads should be created. The upper limit of concurrent connections. Okay, concurrently connect. Okay, number of threads should be created here, and concurrently establish a connection to the data store and during the activity run. Okay, so specify value only when you want to limit concurrent connections, guys. Okay, so you have to be specify the value only when you want to limit the concurrent connections. Okay, so by default, it will automatically take that concurrent connections based on the number of files you read from the source. Okay, so you do not specify anything in the max concurrent connections, but when you want to limit the concurrent connections, you can specify here max concurrent connections value. So filter by last modified. So I have here start time and end time. So I have to specify here start time and end time. So click on next. So if you want, you can be able to specify. So for example, if I can select a folder, I have passed 1 month files in a respective folder, but I don't want all the files should be read from my source. I can specify the date here, filter by last modified, and the start time and end time. So I want to read maybe last 2 days files. Okay, I don't want last 1 month file should be placed into my target. I want to read only the latest files. Okay, last 2 days files are latest file. I want to pick only those those last 2 days files. Okay, so you can use start time and end time here. So now I can click on next here. Here I have delimited text format, right? By default you can have this delimited text. It will automatically detect that format. Okay, so since it is a delimited text, and it will automatically detect the text format. And if you want to preview the data, right, so just click on this preview data. I can see here I have a country, year, product type and sales, right? So I have this data set is ready, and this is my sales data. Okay, and now all these options, comma delimiter, you already have aware since it is a CSV file, and we should use this comma separated value and a compression type. So you can see here if you want to unzip the file. Okay, so since this file is not zipped, and so if your source file is a zip file, if your source file is a zip file, remember this point, very very important. If your source file is a zip file, if you want to extract that file, okay, so what you need to do here, so you should be able to enable that. So I can see here compression type option. I can use that based on, for example, it is a .gzip format, right? You want to extract that file and you want to load into target, right? Using Azure Data Factory service. We have here zip deflate. If you want to extract the zip file, you have to use here zip deflate option to extract that file, guys. Okay. So this is the first row as a header, since it is a CSV file having some header information, right? So header information in the sense you have some columns here, right? Country, year, product type, sales, and all, right? So this is the header information for CSV. And row delimiter, everything is default values. You no need to change anything. And it's not a zip file. I'm not using any compression type. So click on next. So I want to load the data into target, right? So I can specify here a destination. So my destination is, since we already created, we have almost 90 plus connectors, guys. We have many connectors are available, and so I want to use here Gen2. So this is my target. So we already created this Gen2 account and a connection, new connection, and I want to create a connection to this. So when you try to create a link service, pass some naming conventions, ADLS test connection. Okay, you can pass any name, and all these options are common, you already aware. So we already discussed that, and I just want to pass. Okay, and the storage account name, this is the ADLS Gen2, and I want to test the connection. Connection is successful. Once this connection is successful, then only you need to click on create option. Okay, so click on create now. Now you have to be specify where you want to load the data. So you have authenticated that you have authenticated with the target, and your third step would be create a link service that you have done, right? Create a link service for ADLS Gen2, and so your fourth step would be create a data set, right? So for writing the files, guys. Okay, so data set. Okay, so now I'm going to use browse this. So this is the refined, and this is where I want to load the data. Click on OK. Okay, so this is a refined folder I want to load. If you want to specify the file name, for example, you do not want same file name as source, you want to specify some file name here, sales.csv, for example. Okay, so I want to load the data into sales.csv. This is the file name I want to load into target. So copy behavior. So copy behavior in the sense, we have when you are trying to receive multiple files from the source and you want to merge those multiple files to a single file, or you want to load data into a single folder, sorry, a single table, you can also do that. So max concurrent connections. So these are all the default options. So block size. Okay. So by default, we already discussed, by default concurrent connections will create based on the number of files. So concurrently the number of threads will be created and we will access the data from the source. So block in size, guys. So when you want to load data into target, specify the block size. Specify the block size in MB when writing data to Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. A load value is between 4 MB and 100 MB. Okay. So now this is the what you can also divide your data into number of blocks and you can try to add that. So if you have any metadata, if you want to add, so metadata means data about data. It's a kind of a data where we are talking about other data, guys. Okay, so we will talk about that as well going forward. Click on next. So all these options are no need to change anything. Click on next. So task name is this. If you want to change, also you can change your task name or pipeline name. Okay. So this is my pipeline name, and I'll come to this sections, guys. Okay, so settings is very important while creating the pipelines from author tab, but this is a predefined template I'm trying to explain. So there are some options. Data consistency. When selecting this option, copy activity will do some additional data consistency verification between source and destination store. After data movement, the verification includes the file size check and checksum verification for binary files and row count verification. So everything we can do with data consistency verification if we can enable this. And fault tolerance, sometimes you have the sales files, right? So sometimes we'll have some extra characters. There might be some extra characters receiving from the source and you are not able to load all the data into target due to this extra characters. You can use this fault tolerance and you can skip those incompatible rows. Okay, I can see here fault tolerance and I can see skip incompatible rows option we have where we need to skip those records. So enable logging. If you want to load those incompatible records into storage accounts or any log file, you can enable this logging and you can specify that the storage connection name and you can specify the path where you want to load this log file into the storage account. Okay. So now I have an enable staging option. So this enable staging option, when you try to read data from source and you want to compress the data, right? And you want to load it as a staging layer, a blob or data lake storage Gen 2, and it will load the data temporarily into data lake or blob storage. And once you loaded all the data into target, it is automatically deleted from the respective folder. Okay. So this is the enable staging option. So this is very important, enable staging option. So while loading the data, I'll come to this advanced tab. Okay, so data integration units are some more options we have actually. So DIUs in the sense data integration unit, it will basically, why we need to use this option, it will basically improve the powerfulness of copy activity. When you want to move huge volume of data, when you want to move a number of files, now I have only one file, right? But when you want to read the number of files from the source, and you can see here DIUs will automatically increase. Okay, based on the number of files you are trying to read from source, it will automatically increase the data integration unit. By default it is auto. If you can select auto, by default it is going to be take it as a 4 based on your volume of data. And if your volume of data is very high, and you can automatically increase, it will automatically increase because it's an auto scalable, right? So it will automatically scalable, it will automatically increase that size. And you can see here in the drop down 2 4 like this. Okay, so you can specify till 256. Okay, so but when you try to read a single file from the source, by default data integration units is 4 only, guys. Okay, you never increase the data integration unit more than 4 if you're trying to read a single file from the respective storage. Remember this point, even in a real time, Even if you have a huge volume of data with respect to that single file, you cannot increase this DIUs, data integration unit. So I'll also explain the performance optimization techniques you have to follow in a real time so that you can have that complete real time oriented knowledge. Okay. So degree of copy parallelism to improve the performance of your pipeline, we can use this. Okay, I'll come to these sections, guys. Now I don't want to use this advanced section. So click on next. So please select the link service for login. So I don't want, I don't have any incompatible records. So that's why I'm not selecting any link service. And now I want to move data from blob to data lake storage Gen 2. And these are all the options we are trying to pass while creating this pipeline. Click on next. So now we are trying to create the pipeline, and you can see, guys. Okay, so we created the pipeline, we created the template now, right? So if you can click on finish, I can go to author tab. Okay, I can go to the author tab here. So this is the home page, guys, and this is the ingest template we have. Let's go to the author tab, and we have a pipeline is created now. Okay, so it will automatically create it, right? So we have two data sets. One is for source, another one is for target, and we also created a link service. So I can see here also created the link service to establish a connection to source and target, and go to author tab again. So this is our pipeline, and I want to debug this pipeline. Let's see what will happen. So it's running, guys. So it's completed now, right? So now I can see I just debug this, right? So I just clicked on this debug option. So I'll come to this, guys. We can discuss, we can create each and everything separately, but just at a high level, I just want to show you using this template how you need to create a pipeline. Okay. So this is a copy data, and we have different options. I'll come to that. But just at a high level, I just want to show you the input. So your input is connecting to blob storage, and I'm trying to connect to here blob storage, guys. Okay, so these are all the settings related to that. This is an output, and data read is this, data written is this. So we will see that data read and data written, why it is taking data written is huge, right? So let's go to copy data and go to source. So this is a CSV format, right? Source is CSV format. This is fine. And I'll be able to load the data, refine folder. So by mistake, I have used here. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So instead of dot, I specified comma. I think that's it. You can run now. So now we have executed. You can see this spectacle icon, guys. Okay. So you can see this spectacle icon, and this is the source, this is the input, and this is the output. Okay, so still it is showing that, but only thing you have to specify, you have to check here the number of rows read from the file, number of rows written into the file. Okay, so this is what you need to check in a real time. So leave it about the size, data read and data written. Sometimes it may varies that file size from moving the data from storage to storage. So let's discuss about, let's think about other files as well, how this is going to be work. We can practically create an author tab, and so how number of files read one, number of files written one, and number of rows read 72, and number of rows written 72, and the copy duration it took 6 seconds, and throughput is very less because since we have very less volume of data. And when it was started, so August 9th, right? So it was started on August 9th, and the user DAUs 4, and we have user parallel copies 1. So we have these options, guys. Okay, so by default data integration units are taking it as a 4, because since we are trying to read a single file, and it will automatically increase based on our volume of data, based on our number of files we are trying to read from source. Okay, so that's the reason Azure Data Factory is an auto scalable. Okay, so parallel copies is one, since we have selected only one file. Okay, and so duration it took 6 seconds, including the queue time is 3 seconds, and it took only 1 second to move data. Okay, so throughput is basically, it will improve the performance. If throughput is very high, we can load data from block to data lakes very fast. Okay, so remember this point. So this is what pipeline, guys, we just created, and this is the template, predefined template. I'll come to each and every section. Okay, we will discuss about the setup code repository. So before going to publish, so we have some options: validate all, publish, and all, right? So validate all in the sense, it will tell you if you did any mistakes, okay, with respect to pipeline. If you did any mistakes, validate all will tell you before going to run debug or before going to run your pipeline. So publish all, basically, guys, when I refresh this page, I lost this pipeline. Okay, so I don't want to lose this pipeline. I want to save my changes. I want to publish all the changes in a data factory. Let's try to click on this publish all option and click on publish. So publish in the sense you are trying to save the changes. If you forget to publish, guys, if you try to refresh or by mistake, maybe you lost the power, or you don't have charged and your laptop got shut down, you cannot see again this pipeline. So whenever you tried creating the pipeline in author tab or anywhere, so the pipe, whatever the components you created, right, in Azure Data Factory, they no longer be available if you forget to click on publish all option. Okay, so validate all, if you did any mistakes with respect to pipeline, it will show you. Publish all will save the changes. Okay, so whatever you have done till now, all the changes should be saved by clicking on publish all. So you will get some pop-up here, published successfully. So I can see here publishing completed. Right? So this is what Azure Data Factory pipeline, and we will go ahead and check that data, right? So whether data is loaded into target, refined or not, right? So this is my Gen 2 account. Going forward, when we start practicing, or when we start exploring more, you get to know the things, right? So I have loaded all the data, sales.csv. So initially I have loaded the sales comma.csv. Now I have changed it to sales.csv, and you can also edit this. You can also check the contents of the file. Okay, but there is some limitation with respect to while using this option, edit option. It supports till 1.3 MB around. Okay, it's not supported more than that, I think. So you have to, in those cases, you have to download the file and you can check the contents are expected or not. Okay, since I have very less volume of data, I'm using this edit option to check the content of the target file. Okay, so this is what our target. We moved the data now from blob to data lake, and we successfully moved the file. That's it. Okay. So we also created as a data pipeline, right? Your sixth step is pipeline, and the seventh step would be copy activity, right? That's it. So that's it, right? Copy activity we have used seventh step. So this is a copy activity. Sixth step would be create a pipeline. Seventh step would be create a copy activity. That's it. Okay. So this is what Azure Data Factory is. Okay. So at a simple term, and this is an Azure Data Factory. Going forward, we can see real-time scenarios. Okay. So this is what just for blob to data lake movement. This is for basic example. Okay. So going forward, we can try to create more example, more real-time scenarios, more dynamic pipelines, and metadata-driven approaches, and how you need to read data from tables, right? From how we need to connect to the databases. So how we need to use a config table approach. So there are incremental refresh. There are different kinds of examples. Okay. So we can discuss going forward. Okay. So this is what Azure Data Factory. We will discuss about Azure Data Factory uh, storage accounts, and we discussed about Azure Data Factory service, and we also have seen today using this predefined template, right? In this predefined template, how exactly we need to move data. We discussed in today's session, right? So tomorrow session we will try to create a new pipelines using author tab, and I'll show you. Okay. So any questions till now, guys?
Suresh, I had a question.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so we would not be able to perform all these tasks on a free subscription, right?
You can perform.
Or
You
would
can
we?
perform. Yeah, you can perform all these tasks in your free trial as well.
Like connection, you said that there should be like Oracle and other connections which should be available. I don't know whether that's there in my laptop or not.
No, no, no. You can be able to install in your machine. You can even connect to your local desktop as well, right? You can connect to your C drive, and you can also move the data to the cloud as well. Now I'm trying to connect because all these resources I'm trying to create in a cloud. If you want to connect to your local disk, right? So you can still connect to that using a file system connector. Okay. So you can pass your host name, username, and password, and you can try to connect to your laptop as well. Or else you can install any Oracle or any SQL server on premises in your laptop. You can connect to that from cloud as well.
So we need to, I need to install those applications first, SQL or Oracle, something like that.
Yeah, if you want to connect, you can install those. Otherwise, you can also create those resources in cloud as well, and you can connect accordingly. So there are two options. Either you want to connect cloud, either you want to connect to the on-premises. You can connect using Azure Data Factory service, and you can move data accordingly.
Sure, thanks.
So that we can discuss, guys, how we need to connect the multiple source systems that we can discuss one by one going forward. Okay. So if you don't have any questions, we'll wind up the session and we'll connect again tomorrow.